Hi, my dear students. Today our topic is the present tenses, how we use the present simple and the present progressive. While we're studying the tenses, we have three questions to keep in mind. The first one is, why do I use these tenses? And why do the English speaking people need these tenses? And the second question is, how do we use them? And the third question is, when do we use them? And so let's start with the very first one. Simple present tense is used at first for repeated habitual actions at present. For example, if it is your habit, if you do something regularly every day, every week, every weekend, every month, etc., if it is your repeated habitual action at present, you use the present simple. For example, you say I get up early on weekdays. For example, if it's Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, if it's a school day for you, you get up very early on weekday. And so on weekdays, that means that it's your repeat. You repeat the action every day, every morning. So you use the present simple. And the second usage is the natural phenomena and universal truth. What I'm trying to say is that if you're talking about the natural phenomena, like the water levels rise if there's a flood, or the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, if you're talking about the natural phenomena and universal truth that never change, some kind of physical laws, you use the present simple tense again. And for timetable-based actions, while I was teaching you the tenses today, I told you that we use the schedules and the timetables. And if you have a schedule or if you have a timetable, if you're talking about the actions based upon the timetables, we use the present simple. For example, you know what time exactly the lessons start in the morning and what time they end, what time we finish the day. And so you have a schedule, you have a timetable, and it never changes. If there's an emergency, yeah, of course it can change, but normally it is always the same. And so you use the present simple. For example, you say the movie starts in half an hour's time, and also you decide upon the time of the buses. And so while looking at an app, you know, otobüsümlerden, and so when you look at that app, you see what time the bus leaves for Levent or any other place of Istanbul, as you know. And so to talk about the time of the movies, to talk about the time of the place being staged, or your school time, the lessons, and the time schedule, we use the present simple. And also for permanent situations, for example, I live in Sarıyer and study at Behçet Kemal Çağrı High School. I teach English, for example. I always teach English, and it's my profession. And also you're a student at Behçet Kemal Çağrı High School, and it's a permanent situation. You will stay here for 4 years. And so it's a permanent situation. It won't change, hopefully, for the forthcoming 4 years. And so we use it for the permanent situations. And for newspaper headlines in English, normally in Turkish we use the past simple, but in English they use the present simple for newspaper headlines. For example, they say Whitney walks to the heaven. And for sports ones, maybe you're playing some kind of games, digital games, and so online games. And if it's a sport-based game, you will hear the simple present tense being used. For example, Rooney scores a goal against Liverpool, and so here, as you see, we use it for sports ones. What's the difference between the simple present and the present progressive is you use the present progressive for actions in progress at the moment of speech. For example, now I'm teaching you the present tenses and you're listening to me. And for the actions in progress these days or nowadays, not at the moment, but for example, since the beginning of the week and still you're doing it, and these days you're studying for the exam, and so we use it for the actions that are in progress these days or nowadays. And number 3, we use it for changing temporary situations, as you see, with the words gradually, day by day, and perpetually. For example, if you think that you're getting older and older, for example, you can say, I'm becoming younger and younger, you can say. He's becoming richer and richer, you can say. And also we can use day by day, he's getting worse. That means his situation is changing. He's becoming worse and worse. And so for that reason, for changing temporary situations, you use the present progressive. And for near future time arrangements and plans, instead of going to, normally we use be going to structure for future plans, but actually here we don't use going to. Instead, we use the present continuous tense with a future time reference. For example, we say, next summer we are going abroad. And so the first question has been answered so far. We talked about why we use these two tenses, and now we're going to focus upon how we use them. For example, let's have a look at the statement. And I get up, I say, and also I say I live. But we say the water levels rise, we say. And if your subject pronoun is I and the plural subject pronouns like we, you, they, we use the verb one, as you see, bare infinitive form of the verb. But if you have he, she, it as your subject pronoun, you add s, es, and ies to the end of the verb. For example, you say the movie starts, as you see, or you say Whitney walks, or Rooney scores. And in present, also in negative statements, we use don't or doesn't according to the subject pronoun that you use. For example, you say I, we, you don't plus verb one, and we use he, she, it plus doesn't plus verb one. Only in the positive statements and only in the affirmative statements, we use as, es, and ies only with the subject pronouns he, she, and it. And in all the other circumstances and the subject pronouns, we use the bare form of the verb. That means we use go and walk, etc. And in present progressive tense, we always have the auxiliary verb, that is emiza, and then we have the verb ing form of the verb. And so in negatives, in affirmatives, and in interrogatives, in a question form, we don't omit the ing. For example, you say, are you coming with me? You don't pronounce the G sound at the end of the word. You say, they are listening to me. We're studying. Or you say, getting and going. You don't pronounce the G sound at the end of the word. And the third question is, when should I use the present simple and when should I use the time expressions of the present continuous? That means we have adverbs of frequency like always, almost always, nearly always, very often, usually, generally, in general, in usual, as usual, normally, and often, frequently, sometimes, at times, from time to time, occasionally, rarely, seldom, hardly ever, scarcely ever, barely ever, almost never, never, and every structures, every day, every year, every morning, etc. Each day, each week, each year, additionally, and an extra usage. And on blah blah days, for example, on Sundays, on Mondays, on Wednesdays, etc. Because it happens every Monday, every Tuesday, every Saturday, etc. And if you have now, at present, currently, for time being, these days, and all these time expressions, we use the present continuous tense. Also, if you have any kind of future tense time expression like tomorrow, next week, 2 weeks later, etc., we're gonna use the present continuous tenses. Now I'm going to inform you about the non-progressive verbs. These are called non-progressive verbs or the state verbs, and so we can use these verbs only with the present simple because these verbs don't have the ing form apart from the ones with the stars. As you see, think has a star next to it, has a star. We're going to go deep in detail very soon. And so if you have suppose, verbs expressing mental state like suppose, believe, imagine, notice, realize, know, you can't say I'm remembering, you can't say I'm understanding, or I'm knowing, or I'm wanting. You say I want, you say I understand, or I know, I realize. And verbs expressing emotions, you can't say I'm loving, I'm hating. You have to say I love, and I hate, I care, I mind, etc. And verbs expressing possession, you can't say I am owning, I am belonging. You say belong to you, for example, you say, or you say I own a cat. And verbs of sense perception, we're going to talk about it in detail. And others are seem and sound and weigh, cause, advise, promise, and include and contain. These don't take the ing form as well. If you see these verbs in a gap, you have to use the present simple instead of the present continuous tense. And the double meaning verbs, and so there were some stars next to these verbs, as you say, think and have and see. And the double meaning verbs, I call them because if you see them in the present simple, the meaning is different, and if you use it in the present progressive, the meaning is different. For example, if you use see in present simple, it means to see, to use your eyes to see something, and physically to have the sight of something. And also, if you say I see, sometimes when you're talking to an English-speaking person, that person says continually, say, I see, I see, I see. That means I understand. And so if you use it in the present progressive, like I'm seeing, that means you don't see that person. That means you have a date with someone. And think means, if you use it in the present tense, present simple, to hope, to suppose. You say, I think, that's your expectation, that's your idea. And if you use I'm thinking, that means you have a mental process. You're using your brain to think about something. You consider something. And look, if you use it in present simple, it means to seem or appear. For example, you look happy, you look sad, you look unhappy, etc. And also, if you use it in the present continuous tense, it means to have a look at something or someone. And have, if you use it in present simple, it means have got or has got. You say she has 2 siblings. That means she has maybe 1 brother, 1 sister, or maybe 2 brothers, 2 sisters, etc. But we know that she has got 2 siblings. But we don't use got. Instead of that, we use she has. And if you use it in a collocation, like have a discussion, have a shower, it doesn't mean that you have it. The meaning changed totally. At smell, if you use smell in the present simple, it means that you just, how can I say, you're talking about to give off scent. And so that means if you're just smelling something, you check how something smells. And that's the same thing for taste. And to give off taste is the present simple. For example, I love strawberries as they taste yummy. And I like the taste of that. And if you say is tasting, the cat is tasting the chopped meat to see whether it's rodent. Here it means that it's the cat who is checking the taste of the chopped meat. And feel means that if you, this blanket feels so soft. Look at the example, please. It means it gives the feeling of something. And if you say, I'm not feeling very well at the moment, that means you are talking about your feelings or emotions. And weigh, if you use it in the present simple, that means you're talking about how heavy and how light something is. And so if you say is weighing, that means you're talking about someone checking how heavy or light something is. And appear, if you want to mention look and seem, you say this problem looks so challenging, or this problem seems so challenging, or appears so challenging. But actually, if you say Tom Ellie is appearing in a show called Lucifer, you know the famous TV series Lucifer, and Tommy Ellie is the actor, the star, the actor who stars in the TV series. So if you're talking about someone acting in a movie or TV series, you use appearing. And so that's all about the present tenses for now.